Welcome back to the Steve Champagne Radio Show. Welcome back, Van Halen fans, Alex Van Halen fans, everybody that really either read the book or don't know what's in the book, brothers, as we go through this thing chapter by chapter, because it's absolutely a fascinating read, and I love to hear your take and opinion on that. That would be you, I Love Music Army. How you doing out there? Chapter 2 was kind of interesting. There was several points, especially about how Ed worked on his sound, and I want to go through it. I made some notes here, so let's check it out. What I found particularly interesting about Chapter 2 is something that a lot of bands just don't do. The ones that do are the ones that usually have long-term success. Let me tell you the three things that I noticed in Chapter 2 that Alex said, as we have some notes here. First, he talked about a toy gun him and Ed were fighting over. Dad broke it in half, gave them each a piece of it, and said, here you go. And, the basic lesson was to stick together and not fight. A lot of bands don't do that. Somebody gets mad, their ego gets hot. But the truth of the matter is if you have, let's just say you got a really talented singer, okay? And a really talented, let's not even go guitar player. Let's say keyboard player, okay? Got a really talented front man, really talented keyboard player. I mean, really talented keyboard player. And, they might fight. They clash. Maybe the singer wants to do more rock and roll and it's not keyboard oriented. The keyboard guy wants to do stuff, And, if they stick together and compromise and work as a team, they're going to have a lot of success. And that's one of the things that Alex was trying to point out about his toy gun thing. He also said that some things about Ed and his sound. First, he said that Ed held his pick like this, not like this, like this, between his middle finger and his thumb, not his first finger and his thumb. I never noticed that, even when they were filming, and you would see a close-up shot of him. I never noticed that before. I have to look at that next time. I really haven't noticed that. And his mom complained about that, and Ed said, it's music theory, not music fact. Now, in going to his sound, he talked about how he had a 12-string Univox guitar, and Ed took all the upper octave strings off of it to make it a 6-string guitar so it would play the way he wanted to. And that was his first attempt or, fixing or changing a guitar that, wasn't that way. He did that to many guitars, but getting to his sound, and I want to get this straight here. I want to make sure that I don't misspeak here. He said he was never satisfied with his sound. He was always trying to get the right sound without being on 10 because, the only way he could get the sound he was looking for was 10, and the Spinal Tap joke turned it up to 11. Ed wanted it on 12. He said he used a light switch dimmer to try to get the right sound once, and it blew the power out in their entire house. He ended up using a Variac variable power supply to get the sound that he needed without having the amplifier up on 11, if you will, which is kind of interesting. But he also said that they had to replace the tubes about every other show. Now, I found that interesting, too, and I'm going to go over my thoughts on this. I'm just going to tell you a few of the things that were in the second chapter. The other thing is his dad used to take him on gigs, and they would have, it's like ballroom dancing kind of gigs and things like that. And once they actually were at a golf and country club, and they gave him steak and potatoes, and they didn't eat meat like that. They never saw the traditional steak and potatoes like, Americans eat. So they didn't even like it. They didn't even want it. So they took it. Their mom stole the steaks, put them in her purse, and they went home after the show and boiled the steaks so the meat would fall off of it. That's what they did. They boiled their steaks. Interesting food thought there. But the three things I want to point out here is, one, sticking together. Two is the ballroom dance and stuff. We all know Edward Van Halen, is a great rock and roll guitar player. We didn't really hear him play much blues or other stuff, though he did, occasionally in the band or go sit in with someone and do those kind of things. But do you really think And I want to ask the I Love Music Army this question. Speaking of I Love Music Army, hey, that's our internet musical global family of friends. If you love music, please, we invite you to join us. Subscribe to the channel, help us out, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it if you want to keep Edward Van Halen's memory alive. What I was going to say was, it's not all about the rock and roll. I know a lot of guys, are just rock heads. They just rock. That's all. Everything else is junk music. But really, you can learn a lot from other styles. And I'm not just talking about blues. I'm talking about funk playing. Joe Walsh actually played on Andy Gibbs' record. There was a lot, Alden Novas with Celine Dion. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there. Slaughter did a bunch of stuff. So I'm just saying that, and that's just to name a few. I could go on and on. But to know all styles of music, Randy Rhoads was classically trained. There was a lot of music besides rock music that will help you become a better player. And I think what his dad did by teaching him the jazz, the swing, and all the stuff that happened back in the day, it made both Alex and Ed better players. It made them more aware of music, because I know, even though I loved the rock when I was growing up, I still listened to Sinatra and even Herb Alpert records and learned a lot, from just a lot of jazz musicians and blues players and funk players in my musical journey, if you will. But he also wanted to say, and he did, he said that that the thing with Ed was, he was always messing with his sound. And a lot of guys don't do that. They just don't. Oh, this is my amp, I want this. I bought this amp. I want a Marshall. That's it, man. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to get this. Instead of messing with your sound, mess with the controls. A lot of guys have these digital things these days that give them the sounds that they're looking for, especially if you're a club or a bar band. You might not have a sound guy, so you get this pedal board. You just want to mash on whatever you want, so the volume increases, or this happens, or there's less distortion here, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm talking about if you're a guitar player. To mess with your sound, not to be satisfied. And I can honestly say, as drums is my main instrument, yes, I can play guitar, I can play keyboards, I can play other instruments, horns, etc. But my main instrument is drums, and I focused on the sound that I was looking for, that snare drum sound, the cymbal sound I was looking for. If you're a drummer and you're watching this video, I just didn't say, hey, I want to go get a bunch of A-series Zildjians, or I like Zildjians. And no, I would hit the cymbal and I would go, you know what? I need this one. This is the one I need. I need this one. It didn't matter if it was a Sabian, if it was a Zildjian, if it was a Paste, it didn't matter who made the cymbal. If that was the sound I was looking for, then that's what I would get. And it proved to pay off, because a lot of times people would say to me, man, the way your drums sound, because I would spend extra time tuning them or making sure that I got the right sound from each tom, each snare, the bass drum, the cymbals. They would just compliment me on the sound of my drum set. And a lot of people just don't work on their sound. I know how simple bass guitar can be. I mean, it is just a bass, but there is a sound to bass guitar. There is a way to, whether that's amplification, equalization, or whatever you're doing, to get your bass to sound the way you want it to sound. And meaning that they didn't copy anybody. They went for the original, hey, this is the sound I'm looking for. And let's face it, no band really sounded like Van Halen. Alex's drum sound was a lot different than most drummers from that era. And we know about Ed and his guitar sound, and everybody was trying to get that sound. But really, that's all that was in Chapter 2. But stick together. Hey, and stick with us, the Sea Champagne Radio Show. Be a part of our internet musical global family of friends. I read every single comment. I can't wait to read what you have to say about this particular video. And we don't edit it either. If I make a mistake, hey, it just comes out there. It's just us talking. So until next time, hey, I got to get a haircut. This is not good. Look at this. This is terrible. I got to get a haircut here. So let me go run down, knock out a haircut, and we'll be right back from the Steve Champagne Radio Show. Take care. God bless. Oh, this is not looking good. Oh, boy. I got to do something about this. Well, I can't do much about that, but we'll figure the other thing out.